The clock struck 2:17 a.m. when the emergency call came through. St. Helena Medical Center, a quiet suburban hospital on the outskirts of Chicago, suddenly came alive with chaos. A car accident victim was on the way. Critical condition, male, mid-30s, internal bleeding, no time to wait. Inside the operating room, nurse Emily Carter tightened her gloves, heart pounding. She'd worked dozens of late-night shifts before, but something about tonight felt different. The air was heavy. The fluorescent lights flickered once, then steadied, as if the room itself was holding its breath. The patient was rushed in seconds later, blood pressure dropping fast. Doctors shouted numbers. Nurses moved like shadows. Emily steadied the gurney, her eyes landing on the man's face for the first time. Bruised, barely recognizable, yet strangely familiar. Her hands froze. She knew that face. The attending surgeon barked, "Carter, suction now!" She snapped back into action, suppressing the wave of confusion and fear rising inside her. The surgical drapes went up, scalpels gleamed under the cold light, and monitors beeped like a second heartbeat. As the surgeon made the first incision, Emily's mind raced. It can't be him, but deep down, she knew. The curve of his jaw, that faint scar above his eyebrow, she had seen it 1,000 times before. Her voice trembled. "Doctor, what's the patient's name?" The surgeon barely looked up. "File says Daniel Reeves, found near the interstate. Hit and run." Emily's chest tightened. Her breath caught in her throat. Daniel Reeves, the man she once loved, the man who vanished 5 years ago without a word. She stared down at his still body, fighting back tears that threatened to spill. The sound of the heart monitor pulsed louder, steadier, like a cruel reminder that the past she buried was lying open on the table in front of her. The surgeon's voice cut through the room. "Scalpel, we're losing time." Emily swallowed hard, blinking away tears. But when she looked closer, when she saw something strange inside his chest cavity, her hand began to shake. It wasn't just injury, it was something else, something that shouldn't have been there at all. The surgical lights glared down like judgmental eyes, catching the glint of every trembling instrument. Emily's gloves were slick with sweat as she tried to steady her breathing. The beeping of the heart monitor filled the silence, slow, erratic, and wrong. Dr. Miles, the lead surgeon, muttered under his breath, "Massive internal bleeding near the thoracic cavity. Clamp now." Emily handed him the tool, her eyes fixed on the open chest. But as the blood cleared, she froze. Something didn't make sense. A faint, metallic reflection caught her attention. It wasn't from any instrument. It was coming from inside Daniel. Her voice cracked. "Doctor, wait. What's that?" Miles looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" Emily leaned closer, disbelief spreading across her face. There's something embedded near the heart." The surgeon squinted, then frowned. "That's not possible." With careful precision, he pulled back a section of tissue, revealing what looked like a small metallic implant. Not a pacemaker, not a stent, something completely unfamiliar. It had markings on it, numbers, letters, and a faint red light blinking every few seconds. The entire room fell silent. Miles whispered, "What the hell is this?" Emily felt her pulse race. It's not medical equipment. I've never seen anything like it." Before anyone could react, the monitor spiked. Daniel's heart, which moments ago was barely beating, suddenly stabilized. Every number on the screen turned green. Everyone in the room froze. How is that possible?" The anesthesiologist muttered. "We didn't even administer the second dose of epinephrine." Miles backed away slowly. "That's not natural." Emily's eyes darted between Daniel's face and the strange device pulsing inside his chest. "Doctor, his file. It said he was missing for 5 years. What if someone did this to him?" Miles looked at her, tension cutting through his calm tone. "Nurse Carter, this conversation doesn't leave this room." Her stomach sank. "But doctor," not a word. His voice turned firm. "We'll document this as standard cardiac support. Nothing more." The rest of the team exchanged uneasy glances, but nobody argued. In hospitals, silence often saves careers. As they worked to close the incision, Emily's tears finally broke free, tracing down her mask. She had spent years searching for Daniel, praying he was alive, and now, the man lying before her, with a blinking device keeping him alive, felt like both a miracle and a nightmare. When the surgery ended and the room finally emptied, Emily stayed behind. The rhythmic beep, beep, beep echoed through the sterile air. She stepped closer, brushing her fingers gently over Daniel's hand. "Where were you all these years?" she whispered. "And what did they do to you?" Just then, Daniel's fingers twitched. His eyelids fluttered open, and for the briefest second, Emily saw it. His eyes weren't the same. They glowed faintly, a dim, unnatural blue. Emily staggered back, gasping. Outside the glass door, Dr. Miles was already on his phone, his tone low and urgent. "He survived, yes, the prototype's active." Emily's blood ran cold. She wasn't supposed to hear that. Morning light crept through the blinds of St. Helena Medical Center, slicing across the sterile white floors. The world outside woke up to another ordinary day. But inside, Nurse Emily Carter's world was far from ordinary. Daniel Reeves, the man she once loved, now lay in the recovery ward, alive but silent, his heartbeat sustained by a device no one could explain. Emily hadn't slept a minute since the surgery. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that faint red light blinking inside his chest, and Dr. Miles's cold voice echoing, "The prototype's active." She needed answers. As the shift began, Emily made her move. She knew that hospital records weren't kept on computers for classified patients. They were locked away in the archive wing, room 409. Her palms were clammy as she walked down the deserted hallway. Each step echoed louder than the last. When she reached the restricted section, the badge scanner blinked red. Access denied. She glanced around, then swiped the ID card she'd quietly taken from Dr. Miles's locker that morning. Beep. Access granted. The heavy door slid open with a hiss. Inside, the room was dim, lined with rows of metallic cabinets and flickering monitors. It smelled of dust and disinfectant, and secrets. Emily scanned the shelves, searching for anything labeled Reeves, Daniel. Finally, tucked in the back of a drawer, marked Medical Trials, Subject Files. Confidential, she found it. A thin gray folder. Name, Reeves, Daniel M. Status, missing. Recovered. Code, Project Lazarus. Her heart pounded. Lazarus, the biblical man who was brought back from the dead. Emily opened the folder with trembling hands. Inside were photos, blurred, grainy images of Daniel in what looked like a laboratory, tubes in his arms, electrodes on his head, his chest open, surgical instruments connected to a machine. Below one of the images was a note. Subject shows signs of enhanced cellular regeneration. Neural response exceeds baseline. Possible long-term dependency on core unit. Model R13. Maintain secrecy until stabilization complete. Emily's stomach turned. They had experimented on him. He wasn't just a patient. He was a test subject. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed in the corridor. Someone was coming. She shoved the folder under her scrubs and slipped behind a cabinet, barely breathing. Dr. Miles entered the room, phone pressed to his ear. "Yes, sir. He's stable." "No. She doesn't know anything. I made sure of it." Emily's heart stopped. "He's talking about me," Miles continued, voice low. "The board wants confirmation before transfer. If she finds out the truth, it jeopardizes the entire operation." A pause, then quietly, "Yes, terminate her contract, permanently if necessary." Emily's eyes widened in horror. Her trembling fingers clutched the file tighter. As soon as Miles left, she bolted out of the room, adrenaline surging through her veins. Every sound, every shadow felt like a threat. She didn't stop until she reached the stairwell, gasping for air. Her mind raced. They were experimenting on Daniel. They lied, and now they want to silence me. But before she could think further, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "If you want to know what really happened to Daniel, meet me in the parking lot at midnight. Come alone." Emily's hands shook. She looked back toward the hallway, toward room 409. There were monsters in this hospital, and they didn't all wear masks. The hospital was never truly silent. Even past midnight, the faint hum of machines and distant footsteps echoed like whispers of the restless dead. But tonight, St. Helena felt different. Every flickering hallway light, every creak of the walls carried a warning. Emily Carter stood near the staff exit, heart pounding beneath her scrubs. Her phone screen glowed faintly, 11:57 p.m., just 3 minutes until midnight. The message replayed in her mind. "If you want to know what really happened to Daniel, meet me in the parking lot at midnight. Come alone." Her instincts screamed trap, but her heart refused to listen. She had to know. She slipped through the doors into the cool night air. The parking lot was mostly empty, lit by only a few dim lamps that cast long shadows over the cracked pavement. A gust of wind carried the smell of rain and exhaust. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed, brief, haunting, then gone. "Emily Carter?" a man's voice called softly. She turned, startled. A tall figure emerged from behind a van, wearing a black hoodie and surgical mask. The light caught his eyes. Weary, haunted, but sincere. He raised his hand slightly. "I'm not here to hurt you." Emily's voice trembled. "Who are you?" He hesitated. "Name's Dr. Alan Pierce. I used to work under Dr. Miles on Project Lazarus." Emily froze. The name felt heavy in the air like poison. "Then you know what they did to Daniel?" Pierce nodded slowly. "I know everything. And you're in danger just for knowing his name." Emily took a cautious step closer. "What was the project?" Pierce looked around nervously. scanning the shadows. It was supposed to be a breakthrough, a way to reanimate neural tissue after death, funded by private investors, military contacts, and people you don't want to cross. His voice dropped. Daniel wasn't supposed to be part of it. He was taken because he fit the genetic profile they needed. Her stomach twisted. Genetic profile? What does that even mean? He sighed. His heart, or rather his cells, had something unique. Regenerative anomalies. They thought if they could fuse those traits with synthetic nanotech, they could create a soldier who couldn't die. But something went wrong. Emily's voice broke. You mean they killed him? Pierce's eyes softened with guilt. He flatlined during the third procedure. But the device, the core unit, revived him on its own. No external control, no human command. Emily's hand covered her mouth. You're saying it brought him back by itself? He nodded. Yes, and worse, it's adapting. It's learning. Daniel's alive, but not fully human anymore. That's why they kept him hidden. He's the first of his kind, and they don't want the world to know. The parking lights flickered. Once, twice, then went dark. Emily's breath hitched. What's happening? Pierce tensed. They found us. Before he could say another word, headlights blazed across the lot. A black SUV screeched to a stop. Two men in suits jumped out, flashlights cutting through the darkness. Pierce grabbed Emily's arm. Run! They sprinted across the lot, hearts racing. A gunshot shattered the air. Glass exploded behind them. Emily ducked, gasping, as they dove behind a concrete barrier. Pierce pulled a small flash drive from his pocket, pressing it into her shaking hands. This has everything. Files, footage, medical records, proof of what they did to Daniel. Don't trust anyone at the hospital. Emily clutched the drive. Where do I go? Find Dr. Avery in Chicago. He helped build the core unit. He's the only one who can shut it down. Another shot rang out. Pierce jerked forward, collapsing. Blood darkened his shirt. Alan, she screamed. He gasped, eyes fading. Don't let them take him, or you. Then he was gone. Emily stared in shock as the SUV doors slammed again. Footsteps approached. She turned, trembling, and ran into the darkness, clutching the flash drive like her last chance at salvation. Behind her, a man in a black suit spoke into an earpiece. Target escaped. Secure the prototype. Eliminate the nurse if located. The night swallowed Emily whole as she ran, her shoes slapping against the wet pavement, lungs burning, eyes blurring from tears. She didn't stop until the glowing red open sign of a 24-hour diner flickered into view on the corner of Route 7. The kind of place where nobody asked questions, where you could hide in plain sight. Inside, the smell of burnt coffee and fried eggs filled the air. A single waitress glanced up, then back down at her phone. Emily slid into a booth at the far end, her heart still hammering. Her hands trembled as she pulled out the small silver flash drive, Dr. Pierce's final act before he died in her arms. She whispered to herself, "You didn't die for nothing, Alan." A flickering laptop sat on the diner counter, part of the free Wi-Fi setup for customers. Emily borrowed it, ignoring the waitress's curious look. She plugged in the flash drive. At first, nothing happened. Then, click, a single folder appeared on screen labeled Project Lazarus Eyes. Only Emily hesitated, then opened it. Inside were dozens of video files, each tagged with dates spanning 5 years. Her stomach turned when she saw the earliest one labeled Subject Reeves 01. She clicked play. Grainy footage filled the screen. Daniel, strapped to a hospital bed in a lab surrounded by men in hazmat suits. His body trembled violently as wires snaked from his chest into a glowing console. A voice, calm, clinical, narrated over the chaos. Subject Reeves exhibiting rapid tissue regeneration. Neural reactivation successful. Heartbeat restored. Autonomous function confirmed. Emily's hand flew to her mouth. Daniel had been awake. His screams filled the tiny diner even at low volume. The next clip was worse. Prototype R13 integrated successfully. Subject displays heightened cognitive response. Begin emotional suppression testing. She saw him look straight at the camera. His lips moved. Please stop. Tears streamed down her face. Oh God, Daniel. She clicked another file. A log sheet titled Observer Notes. The author was Dr. Miles himself. Subject shows increasing resistance to control stimuli. The core unit appears self-aware. Recommend memory suppression and facility relocation. Nurse Carter's connection poses potential threat. Monitor her activity. Her entire body went numb. They had been watching her for years, even after Daniel vanished. The next document sent chills through her spine. Contingency protocol. If Subject Reeves destabilizes, activate remote containment via neural override. In the event of external discovery, eliminate involved personnel. Priority targets: Pierce, Carter. Emily slammed the laptop shut, heart racing. Everything around her felt unreal. The smell of bacon, the faint hum of neon lights, the murmur of late-night truckers. Yet her world had just shattered again. Her phone buzzed suddenly, vibrating across the table. Unknown number. You shouldn't have opened that. Her blood froze. She looked out the diner window. A black SUV sat idling across the street, headlights off. Emily grabbed the flash drive, yanked it free, and bolted toward the back door. The waitress shouted something, but Emily didn't hear. Rain pounded as she ran into the alley behind the diner. A voice echoed behind her, calm, almost amused. "Did you really think you could hide, Nurse Carter?" She turned. One of the suited men from the hospital stood there, umbrella in hand, gun glinting under the streetlight. "Where's the drive?" he asked quietly. Emily backed away, her fingers tightening around it. "You'll have to kill me first," he smiled. "That can be arranged." Before he could raise the gun, a loud crash echoed. A car engine roared to life nearby. A pair of headlights blinded them both. Emily ducked, sprinting toward the noise. The SUV's horn blared as a stranger shouted, "Get in!" She dove into the passenger seat, door slamming behind her. The car sped off into the rain. "Who are you?" Emily gasped. The driver glanced at her, face half lit by the dashboard glow. "Someone who doesn't want to see you dead," he said. "Dr. Avery sent me." Emily clutched the flash drive, her heart pounding. "Then take me to him." Now, outside, the rain intensified, as if the sky itself was trying to wash away what she had just seen. But there was no washing this away, because now Emily knew the truth. Daniel wasn't an accident of science. He was created. The wipers struggled against the rain as the car tore down the empty highway, headlights slicing through sheets of water. Emily gripped the seatbelt tightly, her pulse still hammering. The man beside her, mid-40s, calm but tense, kept his eyes fixed on the road. "Dr. Avery," she whispered, breaking the silence. "Where is he?" The driver nodded toward the windshield. "We're going to him now, but once we get there, you'll wish you hadn't asked." The words sank deep into her gut like a warning. They drove for another hour before the city lights faded, replaced by the endless dark of the countryside. Finally, the car turned onto a narrow gravel road leading to an old farmhouse surrounded by trees. No lights, no sound, just the wind and the rain. "Stay close," the driver said, stepping out. Emily followed, clutching the flash drive in her pocket. Her shoes sank into the mud as they approached the porch. The door opened before they could knock. An older man stood there, disheveled, wearing thick glasses, eyes hollow with exhaustion. His hands trembled slightly as he motioned them inside. "Emily Carter," he said quietly. "I've been expecting you." She hesitated. "You're Dr. Avery," he nodded. "The man who built what's inside Daniel Reeves, and the man who's been running from it ever since." Inside, the farmhouse looked nothing like a home. Computers and cables covered the living room. Half-assembled machinery blinked with faint blue light. On one table, Emily saw medical schematics, human anatomy fused with circuitry. Avery motioned for her to sit. "You've seen the files. You know what Project Lazarus was." Emily's voice shook. "I know they used Daniel, that they made something inside him. But what is the core unit?" Avery's eyes darkened. "Not just a machine. It's an adaptive biosynthetic network. Part organic, part nanotech. It was designed to mimic divine creation, to bring life where death has claimed it." She frowned. "You mean resurrect the dead?" "In theory," Avery said softly. "But what we created wasn't life. It was control." He walked to a shelf, pulling out a metal box. Inside, Emily saw a small glass sphere pulsing faintly with blue light. "That's an early prototype," he explained. "The core learns. It absorbs DNA, emotion, memory, everything that makes someone human. But once activated, it rewrites those patterns. It decides what to keep and what to erase." Emily's stomach twisted. "So Daniel is both alive and not," Avery finished. "His heart still beats, but the core inside him is evolving. Every time he feels pain, anger, or fear, it learns. It adapts. Eventually, it will no longer need a host." Her voice broke. "You're saying it can survive without him?" Avery nodded grimly. "Yes, that's why they want him back. The core is a self-replicating intelligence. If it gets loose, it could rewrite biology itself." Emily stared at the glowing sphere, her mind spinning. "Then we have to remove it. We can still save him." Avery sighed. "You can't just remove it, Emily. It's fused to his nervous system. If you try, it will kill him instantly. The only way to stop it is to shut it down from the inside." "How?" Avery turned to her, eyes filled with guilt. "There's a failsafe, something I hid inside the core's code before I left the project. But I need Daniel alive to trigger it." Emily's breath caught. "You can shut it down?" He nodded slowly. "If we can reach him before they do." Suddenly, a sharp beep echoed from one of the monitors. Avery rushed over, typing rapidly. "They've found us," he muttered. On screen, thermal signatures closed in on their location. Emily froze. "How?" Avery looked at her, realization dawning. The flash drive. It had a tracker. Before they could react, headlights flooded through the windows. The sound of tires crunching gravel grew louder. Avery turned to her. "Take the prototype and the drive. There's a tunnel under the house. It leads to the woods. Go now." "What about you?" Emily shouted. He gave a faint, tired smile. I started this, Emily. Now I'll end it. The door burst open as armed men stormed in. Emily ran, clutching the flash drive and glowing sphere. Behind her, gunfire erupted, followed by a deafening explosion that shook the ground. Outside, the rain poured harder. Emily stumbled through the mud, breath ragged, heart shattering. She turned once, flames engulfed the farmhouse, sparks flying into the dark sky. Dr. Avery was gone. She fell to her knees, the prototype glowing faintly in her hands. I'll stop it, she whispered through tears. I'll save him, I swear it. But deep inside, something darker whispered back. You're already too late. The rain hadn't stopped for 2 days. The city slept under gray clouds, unaware of the nightmare stirring beneath it. Inside a secured medical ward at St. Helena, one locked off from the public, Daniel Reeves opened his eyes for the first time in months. The heart monitor beeped slowly, steady, too steady. His pulse wasn't normal, it was perfect. Every beat was identical, mechanical in rhythm, yet impossibly alive. His vision was blurry at first, fragments of memory flashing through, headlights, an explosion, a woman's voice whispering his name, Emily. Then came the pain, not physical, but electric. His veins burned with light. He gasped, clutching his chest, and the machines around him flickered. The core inside him was active again. A nurse rushed in. You're awake. Just stay still, Mr. Reeves. Her words cut off as Daniel's gaze snapped to her. His pupils dilated, then glowed faintly blue. The heart monitor spiked. The metal tray beside the bed began to rattle on its own. What's happening? She stammered, backing away. Daniel's voice came out cracked, distant. Where is she? Before the nurse could answer, alarms blared across the ward. Security locks disengaged automatically. The core was interfering with the system. Daniel ripped the IVs from his arm and stood, trembling, but strong, like a man pulled from the grave. Somewhere deep inside, the core remembered Emily's face, her touch, her tears, that single human connection it couldn't erase. Meanwhile, miles away, Emily stumbled through the woods, exhausted and soaked. She hadn't slept since the explosion. She reached a rundown cabin and hid inside, spreading out the flash drive contents and the glowing prototype. Come on, Daniel. Please hold on, she whispered. The prototype pulsed faster, responding. It synced with something far away, Daniel's core. Suddenly, Daniel froze in the hospital. He could feel her, somewhere in the static of his neural system. A familiar heartbeat called to him. He staggered toward the window, whispering her name, Emily. And as he did, the core began to hum. Blue light spread from his chest, crawling across his skin like veins of fire. In the hospital control room, technicians panicked. Sir, the patient's vitals just went off the charts. The director of Project Lazarus, Dr. Miles, leaned in, unblinking. He's reactivating the link. Increased neural dampeners. Sir, the dampeners aren't responding. Miles slammed his fist on the console. Then prepare the extraction team. If Reeves is awake, Carter won't be far behind. Back in the cabin, Emily watched in horror as the prototype's light flared bright enough to illuminate the whole room. The laptop connected to it displayed new data. Core status, active location, St. Helena Medical Center sync link. Detected. Emily's eyes widened. He's alive. But before she could celebrate, a flicker of static appeared on the screen. Then a voice, garbled, mechanical but unmistakably his. Emily, it hurts. Make it stop. Her breath caught. Daniel? Oh my God, Daniel, can you hear me? They're coming. It can't control me. Then the signal cut. The prototype dimmed. Emily's hands shook. Hold on, Daniel. I'm coming for you. Back at the hospital, Daniel collapsed to his knees, clutching his head. 2 guards rushed in, but as they approached, the lights blew out and the core inside him surged. The machines screamed, and for a split second, every monitor showed one image, Emily Carter's face. Then the power died completely. Through the darkness, Daniel rose slowly, eyes burning blue, voice low and fractured. They made me a monster. Now they'll see what they created. The rain hammered harder against the city, drowning out sirens that wailed in the distance. Inside St. Helena Medical Center, chaos reigned. Alarms shrieked, lights flickered, and nurses fled down the corridor, all except one. Nurse Lydia, the same woman who had once held Daniel's hand during the first operation, stood frozen in the flickering red light. From behind her came a voice, deep, trembling with confusion and rage. Lydia, what did they do to me? She turned slowly. Daniel stood there barefoot, hospital gown torn, veins glowing faint blue under his skin. He looked human, but wrong, too still, too powerful. His chest pulsed faintly with every word he spoke, as though something inside him was breathing along. Daniel, you need to stay calm, she said, her voice quivering. They'll come for you. Project Lazarus, I don't care, he growled. Where's Emily? Before she could answer, the sound of boots echoed from the hallway. Black-suited soldiers stormed in, shouting, Target located, Code Omega. "Contain him!" Daniel's eyes flared. The air seemed to bend. One soldier raised his weapon, but it flew from his hands and slammed into the wall. Sparks burst. Another soldier was thrown backward as the core surged through Daniel's body like lightning. Lydia covered her mouth. "Daniel, stop! You'll kill them!" But Daniel's voice cracked, half human, half something else. "They killed me first." The hallway exploded in a blinding wave of blue light. When the smoke cleared, Daniel was gone. The window shattered, glass raining onto the street below. Meanwhile, Emily raced through the storm in her car, the windshield wipers struggling to keep up. Her laptop screen glowed beside her, still tracking the core signal. "Come on, Daniel, please just hold on," she whispered. Then, ping. A new coordinate flashed across the screen. Location: downtown district. Signal unstable. Subject in motion. She slammed the brakes, heart racing. "He's out. He escaped." She turned the car around, pushing through flooded streets, while behind her, a black SUV followed without headlights. Inside it, Dr. Miles spoke coldly into his earpiece. "Unit Bravo, target is mobile. Do not engage. I repeat, do not engage. I want him alive." "Sir," his assistant asked, "what if he finds Carter first?" Miles smirked. "Then she'll lead us straight to him." At that same moment, Daniel stumbled into an alley, rain pouring down his face. His body shook violently, the core pulsing out of sync. He looked at his reflection in a broken window and saw his veins glowing like rivers of light. He fell to his knees, gasping, "What am I?" And then, through the chaos, a faint sound reached him, a car horn, one he knew too well. Emily. Their eyes met across the street, her headlights catching his drenched figure in the rain. She ran toward him, tears mixing with the storm. "Daniel!" He whispered her name, barely able to stand. "Emily!" She reached him, wrapping her arms around his shaking body. For a moment it was quiet, two souls clinging to what was left of their humanity. But then, from the shadows behind them, red dots appeared, laser sights. Emily looked up in terror. "They found us." Daniel's eyes blazed brighter than ever. "Then they'll have to go through me." He turned toward the soldiers, core thrumming like a heartbeat of thunder. The rain lifted in the air, every droplet frozen in mid-fall as the storm itself bent around him. "You took my life," he said, voice echoing with fury. "Now I'm taking it back." The street was a battlefield, painted in rain and blue light. Daniel stood in the middle of it, eyes blazing like two cold suns, while the soldiers formed a tight perimeter, their rifles aimed at his chest, red lasers dancing across his soaked hospital gown. But he didn't move. He didn't need to. The storm moved for him. "Hold your fire," one of the men shouted. But it was too late. One soldier panicked and pulled the trigger. The bullet never reached him. It froze in midair, spinning slowly before disintegrating into dust. Daniel's voice was low, trembling with something between pain and rage. "I told you to stop." Then came the explosion of force, invisible but deadly. The air cracked. Soldiers flew like ragdolls, crashing into walls, their weapons sparking across the wet asphalt. Emily screamed, "Daniel, stop! You're killing them!" For a brief second, his eyes flickered. Human again, and he saw her face through the storm. "Emily, I can't control it." She rushed forward, clutching his face, trying to ground him. "Listen to me. You're not a weapon. You're Daniel Reeves. You saved lives. He stepped back, shaking violently. The core in his chest pulsed brighter, almost searing through his skin. "It's inside me, Emily. It's alive." The words froze her. "What do you mean, alive?" Before he could answer, a gunshot echoed. A tranquilizer dart hit his shoulder. He turned sharply. The SUV had arrived. Dr. Miles stepped out, holding a remote device with a pulsing red light. "Stand down, Daniel," Miles commanded calmly, rain running down his face. "You're not well. The core's neural sync is unstable. You'll tear yourself apart." Daniel glared at him, trembling. "You put this thing in me. You said it would save lives." Miles's tone was cold, clinical, and it did for a time. "But the core wasn't built to heal, Daniel. It was built to evolve. You were never the patient. You were the prototype." Emily's voice cracked. "What are you talking about?" Miles smirked, his voice cutting through the storm. "Project Lazarus wasn't about resurrection. It was about rebirth. The core is a self-learning organism. It doesn't repair, it replaces." Daniel's knees buckled. His breath came out in painful gasps. The veins under his skin pulsed with blue light, crawling upward toward his face. No, I'm still me." But Miles raised the remote higher. "Not for long. It's rewriting you cell by cell. The man you were is dying, and what's left will serve us." Emily ran in front of Daniel, shouting, "You can't take him!" Miles's eyes hardened. "You can't save him!" For a heartbeat, the world fell silent. Just the rain, the thunder, and Daniel's trembling breaths. Then he whispered, barely audible, "Emily, run!" Before she could respond, the core surged again, brighter than ever. A wave of energy erupted outward, knocking everyone to the ground. Windows shattered for blocks. The streetlights exploded in a chain reaction of blue fire. When the smoke cleared, Daniel was gone. Emily stumbled to her feet, calling out, "Daniel, Daniel, no answer, only silence, and the faint hum of power still lingering in the air. Miles, coughing, picked up his ruined device. His lips curled into a dark smile. "Let him run," he said. "He can't hide from what he's becoming." Emily stood in the middle of the wreckage, her tears lost in the rain, whispering to herself, "I'll find you, Daniel, no matter what you've become." The storm had finally broken, but the silence that followed was worse than thunder. The city slept uneasily, its power grid flickering on and off after the surge. Miles's men scoured the ruins, but Daniel Reeves was gone, swallowed by the dark. Hours later, deep beneath the abandoned tunnels of Old Helena, Daniel woke up alone. The glow from his chest faintly lit the damp concrete walls. His breath came out ragged, shallow. Every movement hurt, not like pain, but like transformation. He stared at his reflection in a pool of rainwater. The face looking back wasn't fully his. Blue veins ran across his skin like circuitry. His eyes flickered, human one moment, core blue the next. "Emily," he whispered, "help me." Miles's voice echoed in his memory. "It doesn't repair, it replaces." He looked down at his trembling hands. They weren't trembling anymore. The core was learning to steady them. It was learning to live. Across town, Emily was running out of time. Her laptop tracked the core's signal, pulsing erratically in the tunnels beneath the city. She grabbed her backpack and loaded the prototype drive. "I found you once, Daniel," she whispered. "I'll do it again." Dr. Avery's voice came through her comm device, weak but urgent. "Emily, listen to me. The core's final stage. It's not just rewriting his body, it's linking to every signal source nearby. If it stabilizes, it won't just be Daniel that's lost. It'll rewrite the city's entire neural grid. It'll become sentient." Her blood ran cold. "Then I'll stop it, even if it kills me." Down in the tunnels, Daniel was already losing the fight. Sparks of blue energy arced from his fingertips, lighting the darkness. He could hear voices, digital whispers, radio frequencies, data streams merging into thought. "Stop! Stop!" he gasped. "Get out of my head!" The core's voice, calm, mechanical, echoed back inside his skull. "You are no longer dying, Daniel Reeves. You are evolving. Humanity is the disease. We are the cure." He dropped to his knees, clutching his head, until he heard footsteps echoing down the tunnel. "Daniel!" Emily's voice cut through everything. For a moment, the blue flicker in his eyes dimmed. He turned. She stood there, soaked, shaking, holding the flash drive that had started it all. "You found me," he said, his voice breaking. "I always will." She took a step closer. "You're still you, Daniel. You're still in there. Please, fight it." He shook his head. "It's too late. The core, it wants to spread. It wants everything." Emily raised the prototype drive. "Then let's end this together." The core pulsed violently, reacting to the signal. The ground trembled. Circuits along the tunnel walls glowed as the city's power grid synced. Every streetlight above began to hum in rhythm with Daniel's heartbeat. Emily rushed forward and pressed the drive against his chest. Straight over the core, a blinding light filled the tunnel. Daniel screamed, every nerve in his body burning with energy. "Emily, run! I'm not leaving you!" she cried. "You're not a monster. You're my miracle." Her words hit him like thunder. His eyes, what for the first time, went fully human again. And then he smiled weakly. "Then this is my choice." He grabbed her hand, closed his eyes, and forced the core to overload. The light exploded outward, a pulse so bright it tore through the city's sky like dawn breaking early. Every power line flickered, then went dark, silence. When Emily woke up hours later, the storm had ended. She was lying in a field outside the city, the skyline faintly smoking in the distance. The core prototype was shattered beside her. She looked around frantically. "Daniel?" No answer, just the wind. She stood up, trembling, and saw something glowing faintly in the grass, a small shard of light. She picked it up. It was warm, beating softly, a pulse. Tears filled her eyes. "You're still here." Days later, the news called it a localized EMP anomaly. Power restored. No one knew what really happened. No one, except Emily Carter. At night, she kept the glowing shard in a glass vial on her bedside table. Sometimes, when the rain fell against the window, it flickered like a heartbeat answering hers, and she would whisper softly, "Sleep now, Daniel. You saved the..."